Hi everyone, Sari with Forte, where we teach you to communicate your real self in a way that connects with your audience. Today we're going to be talking about voir dire, and I can't think of another audience that is more important for the attorney to connect with than those potential jurors during the voir dire process. And yet, how often do our made-up stories get in the way of that connection? Now, what do I mean by made-up stories? Well, take a story like conservative jurors can't be trusted. That story might be true, and in many cases it is true. But my question is, does that story serve you? Now, many of you might say, well, yes, it does. It's the conservative jurors that have killed my case in the past. But I'm going to challenge you by asking, do you want your jurors to trust you regardless of their political affiliation? And the answer is yes, of course you do. But how often do we ask our jurors to do things that we aren't willing to do ourselves? I was working with two attorneys recently here in Portland, Oregon. It was a few weeks back, and I asked them, do you trust your jurors? They both thought about that for a minute, and then they answered, no, I don't think we do. Now, why on earth would a conservative juror, any juror really, trust you if you don't trust them? What we have to remember is that trust is a two-way street. Now, that doesn't mean you don't frame your case in a way that appeals to a conservative juror, that you don't get rid of jurors in jury selection that you don't trust. But notice the difference. Conservative jurors can't be trusted. That's a story. I don't trust this particular juror in front of me based on the information I have just seen and heard. That's reality. It reminds me of the time when my husband's friend, who was re-entering the dating world after a divorce, he came over one night and he said, Sari, what do women think about, and I don't even remember the actual question at this point, but I answered, which woman? We don't all think the same, you know. Dan and Chip Heath in their book Made to Stick, they point out that the way you deliver a message is a cue to your audience on how they should respond. For example, if you communicate in an argumentative way, this invites your audience to argue with you. So if you communicate that you don't trust conservative jurors, they will respond by not trusting you. Can conservative jurors be trusted? Well, some can and some can't. But if you carry around the story that all cannot be trusted, you will communicate based on that story. In other words, those conservative jurors are going to pick up on the fact that you find them untrustworthy, and they're going to shut down. Why not have a story that serves you, such as most jurors want to do the right thing, and then deal in reality? Observe the actual jurors that you have in front of you and make decisions based on what you're seeing and on what you're hearing. How do you think that would change your communication? How do you think that would change how a conservative juror perceives you? If you want more information about voir dire, I'm working on a book, and you can be the first person to find out when that book hits the shelves by going to our website at www.nonverbalforte.com and signing up for our newsletter there on the homepage. Well, until we meet again, I invite you to be bold, be real, and be a communication rock star.